It's hour 22. You haven't eaten since yesterday, and the weird part isn't the hunger, it's the absence of it. Your mind feels sharp, almost uncomfortably clear. Your stomach is quiet. And while you're sitting there, doing nothing, something dramatic is happening under your skin. Your insulin has crashed to a floor it hasn't touched in years. Your liver is scraping the bottom of its glycogen tank. And tucked around your organs, the most dangerous fat in your body is being pried open and fed into your bloodstream as fuel. You're not starving. You're mobilizing. Most people look at one meal a day and see extreme calorie restriction, a crash diet with a fancier name, the kind of thing that wrecks your metabolism, burns your muscle, and rebounds the second you eat a normal dinner. That's the story. The story is wrong. OMAD isn't really a calorie protocol. It's a hormonal one. The magic isn't in the 1 hour you eat. It's in the 23 hours you don't. And the way your body responds to that window is almost nothing like what happens during chronic dieting. Different hormones, different fat, different outcome. Here's what this video is going to do. We're walking through 60 days of OMAD, phase by phase, across 3 exact timeline windows. Days 1 through 7, where insulin collapses and the water weight flies off. Weeks 2 through 4, where visceral fat burns first and your brain switches fuel. And weeks 5 through 8, where your cells themselves get renovated from the inside out. By the end, you'll know exactly what's happening in your body at every stage. You'll also know the one mistake that turns OMAD from a metabolic upgrade into a muscle-wasting trap, and why most people who plateau are making it without realizing. Let's start the clock. Day 1. Day 1 of OMAD. You eat your meal and the clock starts. For the first few hours, nothing dramatic happens. Your body is doing what it always does after food. Insulin spikes, shuttling glucose into your muscles and liver for storage, and packing any excess into fat cells. Insulin is the storage hormone. As long as it's high, your body has no reason to burn fat. Why would it? There's fresh fuel on the counter. But here's where OMAD diverges from every normal eating pattern. You don't eat again. Hour 6 passes, hour 12. And somewhere around hour 16 to 18, something flips. Your liver runs out of glycogen. Glycogen is the quick access sugar your liver keeps on standby. About 100 grams of it. Like a pantry shelf, your body raids between meals. When that shelf empties, insulin has nothing left to manage. It crashes. Fed insulin levels hover around 15 to 25. By hour 22, you're sitting closer to 3 to 5. That's a 70% drop. And the moment insulin hits the floor, a completely different hormone takes the wheel. Glucagon. Think of glucagon as insulin's opposite. Insulin locks the fat cells. Glucagon pops them open. An enzyme inside your fat cells called hormone-sensitive lipase switches on, and fatty acids start pouring out of your fat stores into your bloodstream, heading for the liver to be burned as fuel. You are now, in the most technical sense possible, eating yourself, and this is where the first surprise lands. You step on the scale at the end of week 1, and you're down 4, 5, maybe 7 pounds. You think it's fat? It's not. Every gram of glycogen in your liver and muscles is bound to about 3 grams of water. Dump the glycogen, dump the water. Most of that first week drop is the flood draining out of the pantry. The real fat loss is just getting started. Which brings us to weeks 2 through 4, and the question nobody asks. When your body finally starts burning fat, which fat goes first? Not the fat on your thighs, not the fat on your arms. The fat wrapped around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines. Visceral fat. This is the deep, dangerous fat that pushes your belly out like a drum from the inside. And it burns first for a very specific reason. Visceral fat is covered in receptors that respond to adrenaline-type signals. way more receptors than the soft fat sitting under your skin. So when your body sends out the burn fat signal, visceral fat hears it loudest and answers first. In early fasting studies, visceral fat disappears 2 to 3 times faster than the fat you can actually see in the mirror. Your waistband gets looser before the scale moves much at all. And while your fat cells are unloading, your brain is doing something strange. Your brain is a glucose addict. It normally burns about 120 grams of sugar a day just to keep the lights on. But by week 2 of OMAD, sugar is scarce, and your liver starts converting those freed up fatty acids into a new fuel called ketones. Ketones are what your brain burns when sugar runs out. Blood ketone levels climb from basically 0 to 1, sometimes 2, and your brain, it turns out, loves them. Ketones cover up to 70% of its energy needs, and they burn cleaner than glucose. That weird mental clarity, OMAD, people talk about, that's not a placebo. That's your brain running on a different fuel entirely. Now we zoom in, past the organs, past the fat cells, into the cell itself. Weeks 5 through 8 is where OMAD stops being a weight loss story and starts being a renovation project. First change. Your cells get better at hearing insulin. When you eat 6 times a day, your cells are drenched in insulin so often they stop listening. It's like living next to a train track. Eventually, you sleep through it. That's insulin resistance, and it's the silent engine behind type 2 diabetes. Give your cells 23 hours of quiet every day for a month, and their ears open back up. Insulin resistance markers drop by 20 to 30% in extended fasting studies. Second change, autophagy. After about 18 to 24 hours without food, your cells start eating their own garbage. Damaged proteins, broken parts, misfolded junk. They break it down and recycle it into new components. It's the cellular equivalent of a self-cleaning oven. And OMAD hits that autophagy window every single day. Third change, and this is the one that sounds like science fiction. Your cells start building more mitochondria. Mitochondria are the tiny engines inside every cell that turn food into usable energy. More engines means more horsepower. Fasting activates a molecular switch called PGC1 alpha, and that switch tells your cells to multiply their engines. You end up with more energy factories than you started with. This is why your resting metabolism doesn't crash on OMAD. In short to medium fasting studies, resting metabolic rate stays flat or actually rises, anywhere from 4 to 14% in the first few weeks. Norepinephrine roughly doubles. Growth hormone can spike 13 to 20 times baseline. Compare that to classic calorie cutting, where metabolism tanks, thyroid hormone drops, and your body fights you every step of the way. Same deficit, opposite outcome. The difference is when you eat, not how much. So, insulin crashes, visceral fat burns, brain switches fuel, cells get cleaner, mitochondria multiply, metabolism holds or climbs. This sounds like the perfect protocol, and it almost is, except for one trap that ruins most people's results. It has nothing to do with calories. It has nothing to do with metabolism. It's protein. To maintain muscle, you need about 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight every day. And to actually trigger muscle building in a single meal, you need roughly 0.4 grams per kilogram at once, with enough of an amino acid called leucine to flip the build muscle switch. For a 75 kilogram adult, that's a 30 gram protein hit minimum in one sitting. Most OMAD eaters don't come close. They eat a big bowl of pasta, some vegetables, a bit of chicken, and call it a day. The scale drops. The mirror looks thinner, but underneath, they're losing muscle alongside the fat. Same number on the scale, softer body. This is the skinny fat trap, and it's not a metabolism failure. It's a protein failure. Undereat protein during OMAD, and your body does exactly what you'd expect a hungry body to do. It strips lean muscle for amino acids while your fat-burning machinery runs in the background. You end up lighter, weaker, and shaped worse than when you started. The fix isn't more meals, it's a smarter one, so here's where you land. OMAD isn't a crash diet. It's a hormonal schedule that drops your insulin to the floor, burns the dangerous fat first, sharpens your cell's ability to hear insulin again, and builds more energy factories inside you than you had 60 days ago. None of that happens from eating less. It happens from eating once. The protocol that actually works is simple. Aim for 1.4 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight in that one meal. Front load it with a complete protein source, something that delivers at least 3 grams of leucine, the amino acid that flips the muscle building switch. Then lift something heavy 2 to 3 times a week. That combination locks in lean mass while the fat-burning machinery does its job in the background. Drop a comment and tell me which phase you're in right now. Week 1 glycogen crash, the week 2 to 4 visceral shrink, or the week 5 to 8 cellular upgrade. And coming up next, I'm breaking down OMAD versus 16 to 8 across the same 60-day window, head-to-head on visceral fat, insulin, and muscle. One of them wins on fat loss but quietly loses on muscle. And the result is not the one the fasting world tells you. Subscribe so the next one finds you. The body isn't punished by fasting, it's recalibrated by it. The real question was never how little you could eat. It was how precisely you could time it. So when you sit there at hour 22, feeling that strange quiet, you know now exactly what's happening under your skin. The insulin floor, the visceral fat dissolving, the mitochondria multiplying, same quiet moment, completely different body.